Uninvited Guest Alert. Finding my husband's coworker, playing house with my family. You know those moments in life when reality hits you so hard you think you're actually in some bizarre TV show? Well, grab your popcorn, folks, because what I'm about to tell you makes the Real Housewives look like a kindergarten tea party. Picture this. It's a random Tuesday afternoon, and I decide to leave work early to surprise my family. Spoiler alert, I was the one who got the surprise of a lifetime. There in my kitchen was a woman I'd never met before, wearing my favorite apron, cooking dinner while my 4-year-old son called her Mommy. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how fast my life spiraled out of control. 1 minute, I was a happily married stay-at-home mom with a loving husband, an adorable toddler, and a picture-perfect suburban home. The next, I was the star of a real-life Big Brother situation, minus the prize money and exotic locations. It all started on a typical Tuesday morning when I stumbled upon the guest bedroom door slightly ajar. I pushed it open, expecting to see the usual chaos of toys and baby books scattered all over the floor. Instead, I found the most unlikely of scenarios. My husband snuggled up on our couch in his favorite spot, with his female coworker Rachel, wrapped in a blanket, fast asleep. Our 1-year-old sweet pea, Emily, was busy building a Lego tower, completely oblivious to the mayhem unfolding around her. At first, I thought I must have stumbled into some weird dream or a bizarre setup for a couple's therapy session. I rubbed my eyes, wondering if I was hallucinating from a lack of sleep. But when I opened them again, the scene remained eerily the same. My mind quickly scrambled to process what I was seeing. Was I dreaming? Was I going crazy? My next move was to stall for time. I rummaged through the kitchen for an excuse to step outside and gather my thoughts. I boiled some water, filled the kettle, and distracted myself by staring blankly into the pantry. Meanwhile, Rachel started stirring, and my husband tried to extricate himself from the situation without making a fuss. I caught a glimpse of a hasty whispered conversation and Emily giggling in the background. The scriptwriters must have been having the time of their lives as I was thinking, act natural and hurry inside. I practically fled with the kettle in my hands, managing not to spill a single drop of boiling water. A minor miracle, considering my state of mind. Let me introduce you to Sarah, my husband's work wife, a term I used to laugh about until she decided to take method acting to a whole new level. And by that, I mean she literally moved into my house and started playing house with my family. Talk about taking workplace relationships too far. Before this soap opera began, I had what everyone would call the perfect life. I was crushing it at my job as a marketing executive, had a husband who I thought was devoted to our family, and the most adorable little boy who made everything worthwhile. Little did I know that while I was busy living my best life, my husband was busy creating an alternate reality. And hold on to your seats, because this story has more layers than an onion. We're talking about a secret house, a family trust fund that apparently turned into a build-a-love nest fund, and enough drama to make Tyler Perry say, "That's a bit much." Hello out there, let me introduce you to my world, where the mansion became the soap opera and my family turned into a set from the latest Real Housewives of Suburbia series. Say hello to Sarah, the queen of chaos, who somehow managed to crash our idyllic suburban heaven like a stormy tornado. As I put on my best detective hat a la Sherlock Holmes, I began to piece together the puzzle of my ex-husband's deceit. But, honestly, I'm still trying to solve it, like putting together a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. I mean, how do you hide another woman living in your house, using your trust fund to pay for her expenses, and managing to not raise a red flag? It's like asking me to explain why gravity decided to bend the rules of physics just for my family. It all started on a typical Tuesday morning as I entered our kitchen, where I expected the usual cereal, juice, and the silent morning chaos that you find in every family. What I got was a stage production with an unedited script full of comedic mishaps and uncomfortable vibes. The ultimate home invasion. Instead of an invasion of bugs, I got a full-on takeover by Sarah, armed with my favorite apron and a sly smile. So you want to know the top reasons why I call Sarah the Queen of Chaos? She had an invisible entry permit, courtesy of James's master key. Apparently, the 19th century castle-style mansion we live in came with a modern twist, the secret passageway of Sarah, Her claim to famousness was, have all the utensils engraved with her name? Mic drop. Who among us wouldn't want a cabinet-to-your-name apron and cooking pans? Cheeky. Wait, I know what you're thinking. What was the motivation behind all this? Spoiler alert, folks. My ex-husband James was busy playing house director on set. Sarah was his co-star, acting as the quintessential stepmom extraordinaire. With her Oscar-worthy performance, she managed to fool us all, even our beloved son. By this point, you're probably thinking, but how did you not notice? Well, here's a crash course in our marriage. James convinced me that he was a stand-up guy. What he meant was that he was skilled at creating obstacles to keep us from being emotionally close. He seemed overly concerned with my career growth. Not loving me, remember that 5-year itch? But more of the not being here enough to miss my actions kind. We became an experimental model of the separate lives experiment, where I spent most of my free time working on household errands, and he turned our kid time into weekend getaway planning for Sarah. Things took an outrageous turn during our dinner gatherings. The dinner discussions were rearranged. Playdates were always in favor of Sarah. The vocabulary newcomer welcome guide was clearly outlined. Avoid discussing mom-related topics. Little miracle child Emily used to do this fantastic babbling nonsense lullaby on the pillow, and whenever Sarah started whispering sweet-talking something in her years later, it just escalated for the American soap opera phase of her life. Clearly, someone was well-versed in using guilt psychology. This introduction? Just a warm-up. Now that I've left the highlights and still struggling to wrap my head around my son now using mommy in honorific language against Sarah, but super mommy when calling me, let's buckle up for the twist. Act 1. Just to show. Let's start there a bit, shall we? The family trust was put in a totally different use of purpose than I remembered. Stay tuned. There's more to come. Act 1. The shocking discovery. So there I am, standing in my own doorway, keys still in hand, watching this stranger, this Sarah, teaching my son how to make chocolate chip cookies, my recipe, my kid, the audacity. And there's my husband, James, sitting at the kitchen island like, this is the most normal thing in the world. Oh, honey, you're home early, he says, like we're in some 1950s sitcom gone wrong. And Sarah, she just waves at me with flour-covered hands, saying, I've heard so much about you. Well, funny thing, I'd heard absolutely nothing about her. I still remember that fateful day like it was yesterday. It's not something you ever want to forget, mainly because it's etched into your brain like a bad tattoo. My name is Sarah, and I was a married woman of 4 years with a beautiful toddler named Emily. Life was good. We had our little routine going on. I worked from home as a virtual assistant, while my husband, Mike, was a marketing specialist for a firm downtown. My life was pretty beige, if I'm being honest, until the day I walked into a world of chaos and confusion. I had spent a lovely morning shopping for Emily's ballet class outfit while Mike was supposedly at work. But as it turns out, he was indulging in a certain productive meeting with Tessa at the office. And when I say productive, I'm pretty sure Tessa has never been more productive in her life. I had sensed something was amiss when I returned home to an eerily quiet house. I changed into some sweatpants, took out the leftover pizza from last night, and decided to treat myself to a relaxing evening with Emily. Little did I know, I was about to step into the twilight zone. As I entered our living room, something didn't quite add up. It started with the door being slightly ajar, which shouldn't have been a problem. But why was Emily sitting on the couch, staring intently at Tessa, a look of adoration all over her face? And why was Tessa lounging in our favorite armchair with her feet propped up on the coffee table, a cigarette hanging precariously from her lips? Wait, cigarette? Mike never allowed smoking in the house. As if it wasn't weird enough, I spotted a half-eaten box of donuts on the floor, with a guilty note stuck on the fridge. Try to be cool, but if Sarah asks, tell her it's your new book club. Nice. Really nice. Act 2, the trust fund betrayal. But wait, it gets better. While I'm still processing the fact that there's another woman playing mommy in my house, I discover that my dear husband has been quite the busy bee. Remember that family trust fund his grandfather set up? Well, apparently, James thought it would be a great idea to use it to buy a little love nest across town. It's not what you think, honey. Sarah needed a place to stay, and I was just helping out a colleague. Yeah, right. Because buying a $500,000 house for your colleague is totally normal workplace behavior. As I stood in my doorway, hands on hips, trying to wrap my head around what I was seeing, my husband snuggled up on the couch with his coworker Rachel, wrapped in a blanket, and our 1-year-old Emily giggling in the background. I stumbled upon a little surprise. The family trust fund, which I believed was there for my son's education and future well-being, had been used to purchase a love nest across town. Not just a love nest, mind you, but a 5,000-square-foot mansion in the most exclusive neighborhood, complete with a pool, a gym, and enough bedrooms for a reality TV show. I'm not sure what was more astonishing. The fact that I had no idea this was going on, or that my husband had managed to convince me that using the trust fund for this purpose was acceptable. I mean, who needs a college fund when you can have a girlfriend's full-time apartment? And who needs a stable household environment when you can have a constant flux of relationships and drama? When I confronted my husband, he just shrugged and said, "I was just trying to make up for the lack of attention you were giving me and our son." Excuse me? The lack of attention? Are you kidding me? I thought I was the one doing most of the household chores and taking care of Emily while you were off living your best life with another woman. But I digress. It gets better. My husband tells me that he justifies the expenses because Rachel is doing most of the household chores and taking care of Emily while I'm working late. Ah, but that's okay then. As long as someone else is doing the household chores, it's all good, right? I mean, who needs to be a good husband and father when you have a surrogate wife and a convenient love nest? And let's not forget about the family history behind the trust fund. I thought it was our rock, our security blanket, the proof that our grandparents loved us enough to leave us something. But I was wrong. It was just a convenient pot of gold for my husband to use as he pleased. I swear it's like he's playing a real-life game of Monopoly, using the trust fund as his own personal wallet. I won't lie. I fantasized about driving to the love nest, bursting in and yelling, "I'm the queen, you fools!" Sorry, had to channel my inner the Lion King there. But unfortunately, I'm a real person with real problems. Not just a Shakespearean heroine with a quick wit and even quicker justice. The trust fund betrayal is just a small part of the puzzle, the iceberg's highest tip, while the real iceberg is hidden beneath the surface. And I'll get to that in Act 3. The gaslighting games. Then came the parade of excuses. According to James, I was never home, I was too focused on my career, and my personal favorite, I drove him to it by being too independent. Because apparently, being a successful working mom is now a criminal offense. Oh boy, where do I even begin with the gaslighting games my husband, James, decided to play? It's like I was trapped in some bad movie where the main character is slowly losing their sanity. But I digress. It started with the excuses. Every single time. I confronted him about his behavior. He'd morph into this completely innocent, me persona. "I'm the victim here, honey," he'd say, while I'm over here thinking, wait, what? Did we just switch roles in some twisted B-movie plot? And then there were the justifications. "You were never home to see what was going on," he'd claim, while I was actually working from home as a virtual assistant, trying to make ends meet and give our son the best life possible. Of course, that was just my imagination running wild. I couldn't possibly be competent at my job and loving my family. Nope, I must have been neglecting my family duties because I was so busy, not being there. It didn't stop at justifications. It escalated into all-out blame shifting. "You drove me to this," he'd say. "You're so impossible to live with," he'd claim, as if I'm the reason why our marriage was failing, rather than his own infidelity. It was like I was the villain in his twisted fairy tale, the one responsible for all the drama and heartache. But you know what the cherry on top was? The complete and utter loss of reality he displayed when confronted about his deceit. "I don't remember saying that," he'd claim, while I'm like, "Dude, I recorded it on my phone. You said it, and I can prove it." And then comes the fake smile, the apologetic tone, and the whole "I'm just stressed out" routine. I mean, come on. Can't he see I'm the one who's been living in this soap opera nightmare the entire time? I remember one specific argument where I asked him, "How can you look me in the eye and deny everything? And you know what he said? I don't remember lying to you. Now, I'm no expert in gaslighting, because this is just fiction, of course, but isn't that a major red flag? I mean, if my husband can't even remember if he lied to me, then maybe, just maybe, he should work on his problem with honesty. At this point, I began to wonder if I had somehow lost my mind. Was I just imagining the whole thing? Was I, in fact, the crazy one? It's like I was trapped in some crazy-making scenario where nothing made sense, and I was the only one who saw the truth. Sounds like the perfect recipe for a nervous breakdown, right? Well, I did break down, but only because I chose to reject this toxic relationship and take back control of my life. As I reflect on this experience, I realize that gaslighting is a master of disaster, disguised as a perfectly innocent conversation. You start to question your own sanity, your own perceptions, and before you know it, you're dancing with the music of Taylor Swift's Shake It Off, singing along to, I stay out too late, got nothing in my brain, that's what people say. Yeah, tell me about it. During those late-night conversations in my secret bedroom, aka my sanity-saving escape, I asked myself a lot of questions. Who was I trusting more, my husband or my own instincts? How can I rebuild my self-worth when someone constantly undermined it? What made me settle for this kind of nonsense? After what felt like an eternity, I pieced together a clear thought, one I desperately tried to dodge for so long. If I accepted his justifications and thought it was all my fault, I'd lose myself completely. No more Queen of Chaos, no more wild storytelling comedies. The memories would suffocate the hell out of me in that long exposing light. A massive wake-up call awaited me, in many ways, basically on multiple frontiers still. Every conversation had ended with shut up, while me refusing conversations would be said to be passive-aggressive. Your paranoia is scary, and get over it now didn't become my typical reactions to such. I just remember this deepened voice screaming, "Go out and tell them." No. All of those encounters taught me a valuable lesson, one that saved me from utter despair. You are never wrong to stand up for yourself and do what feels right, even if the whole world disagrees. As I stood in the doorway, my mind reeled at the sight before me. My husband's coworker, Samantha, was lounging on the couch, surrounded by our dirty laundry and scattered toys. Our 2-year-old son was perched on her lap, giggling as she read him a bedtime story. I stared at them, feeling like I had just stepped into a Beverly Hillbillies episode gone wrong. My initial reaction was to freak out, to accuse, to wonder how this could possibly be happening in my own home. But as I stood there, something inside of me clicked. Maybe it was the fact that Samantha looked so happy, so relaxed. Or maybe it was the way our son was clinging to her like she was the only sane person in the world. Whatever it was, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. I took a deep breath and reminded myself that I had the power to choose how I reacted to this situation. I could let my anger and frustration consume me, or I could choose forgiveness and take the high road. As I stood there, frozen in indecision, our child looked up at me and said, "Mommy, can you read me a story too?" It was then that something inside of me snapped back into place. I knew that I couldn't let my hurt and anger control me. I took a step forward, into the room, and exclaimed, "Actually, kiddo, I think Samantha can read you a story, but I'll sing it to you." I awkwardly cleared my throat and began to sing a bizarre rendition of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Samantha laughed and joined in, creating an awkward but hilarious harmony. As we sang and danced together, something strange happened. The three of us became this weird, beautiful little family unit, and I started to see Samantha in a different light. Maybe she wasn't just a homewrecker, a manipulative seductress. Maybe she was just a nice person who happened to be my husband's coworker, trying to make a living and stumble upon adulthood, which was just as lost as everyone else. From that moment on, Samantha was no longer the enemy. She was just Samantha. A quirky, neurotic, crazy-pants person who happened to live with us and adore my child. As the days went by, our son continued to call her Mom, but I decided to give her a new nickname, Sammy Bad Cop, because every time she disciplined him, he would squeal with delight and say, "Mommy will always forgive you." Eventually, Sammy Bad Cop proved to be more than just a nemesis. She helped me navigate the vast unknown of single momhood, offering an arm around the shoulder, a pep talk, or sometimes just a ride to the doctor when you're the adult trying to figure everything out while being outnumbered by your child. We even started hosting family movie nights together and just accepted that sometimes everyone won't always get along instantly. Now, here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. You know how mother-in-laws usually side with their precious baby boys? Well, not Martha. When she found out what her son had done, she went full mama bear, just not in the way James expected.
I didn't raise my son to be a lying, cheating excuse of a man.
Martha not only helped me find the best divorce lawyer in town, but also testified about the trust fund misuse. Talk about family drama. When it came to fighting for my son, I turned into a mama lion protecting her cub. James thought he could have it all, the wife, the girlfriend, the house, and our son. But honey, he had another thing coming. I'm still fuming, but think I'm in a weird state of denial. About 2 years ago, I discovered that my perfect husband had been having an affair with his female coworker. That was already a nightmare, but then I found out she'd moved in with us, and my little 3-year-old cutie pie, Penelope, was calling her mom. I'm talking mom, like as in M-O-M. Okay, I know what you're thinking. How did this happen? And trust me, I've asked myself that a million times. But here's the thing. My husband had promised me and our child a life of love and happiness, not a Lifetime movie plot. I'm not sure what he was thinking, but apparently the plot twist was that his mistress would become a permanent fixture in our lives. So fast forward to today, we've been in marriage counseling for what feels like an eternity. My husband is still attached to this person, who is, might I add, a human version of a parasite, and I'm trying to survive this surreal nightmare. We're supposed to navigate the complex web of dividing our assets and making arrangements for Penelope's care, but honestly, it feels like we're just going through the motions. Meanwhile, the big C word, custody, is looming over us like a dark cloud. My lawyer always says, remain calm and let the facts speak for themselves. But let's be real. There's nothing remains calm about asking me to trust my ex with our child while he's still hooked on his mistress. Every conversation about custody is just a merry-go-round of I want what's best for Penelope. But what's best for Penelope is being raised by both her parents and so on and so forth. The level of emotional manipulation is deafening, and sometimes I just want to scream, I know what's best for our child. Maybe if you'd both worked on your relationship instead of working on each other, we wouldn't be here right now. Penelope has started to notice the tension, and it's breaking my heart to see her so confused. She'll sometimes say things like, Mommy and Daddy need to stop fighting, or I just want to be with my family again. It's clear that she's picking up on the stress, and I'm desperate to protect her from it all. The last thing I want is for the custody battle to prolong her emotional pain. I want a judge to make the tough decisions and bring this ordeal to an end. But until then, I'll be fighting on the front lines of this messy custody battle for my child's future. Bring it on, lawyer talk. Fast forward 6 months, and life looks completely different. I've got primary custody of our son, a restraining order against Sarah, that escalated, and a new perspective on life. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best breakthroughs. You know what's funny? My son doesn't call Sarah mommy anymore. Instead, he calls me super mommy because, in his words, you're stronger than all the superheroes combined. If you enjoyed this wild ride of a story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join my No Drama Mama community. Trust me, I've got more stories that'll make your jaw drop. And hey, drop a comment below with your craziest relationship story. Let's turn these relationship lemons into comedy lemonade together. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting better and having a good laugh along the way. Remember, if life gives you drama, make it YouTube content. See you in the next video.